dengan cita-cita mulia.
I am going to speak slowly, but first of all, allow me to greet everyone in a very general way. I have not memorized the names of key personalities, and I am afraid that I might mispronounce their names. So, UNMER administrators, faculty, students, and significant others, maayong aga, good morning. Magandang umaga is our national language in Tagalog, but in our dialect, it's maayong aga. Allow me to say some disclaimer, not really a disclaimer in the real sense. If I mispronounce some words in Bahasa, my apology. Dan secara umum, rekan-rekan, saya yang saya hormati dalam profesi Pinglaran, selamat pagi untuk kita semua. Saya berada di sini untuk membagikan beberapa praktik yang kami lakukan di Central Philippine University. Praktik-praktik ini telah berjalan dengan baik di universitas kami. Meskipun mungkin tidak semuanya akan kukuh diterapkan di sekolah lain yang memiliki konteks berbeda. I hope the AI never made joke. So thanks to ChatGPT, I have this very short disclaimer. Okay, first slide, please. We are living in an era marked by increasing uncertainty. Economic, political, and social challenges are converging to create a volatile and unpredictable environment. One major source of anxiety stems from the intensifying trade wars between the United States and China, between the U.S. and several first world countries. These global frictions continue to ripple across Southeast Asia, with real implications for the Philippine economy. Closer at home, the Spratly Islands. The Spratly Islands territorial dispute remains a highly sensitive and contested issue. what many would call a geopolitical powder keg. Any provocation could destabilize the region and endanger the lives of those living in vulnerable coastal communities. In this context, our political leaders must be equipped not only with data, but with the right kind of information, insight that reflects the complex realities on the ground. Next slide, please. I'll just point it here. Okay. Ano? No? To the first. I'll go to the first one. First one. First slide. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This one.
Yeah. You want the next? Just press the one.
Okay.
This one for the next.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Change.
So along this line, as researchers, we must constantly ask, what kind of knowledge do I need to understand a specific issue deeply? What kind of knowledge? If I want to assess the economic impact of the US-China trade war, I would turn to quantitative methods, never qualitative methodology. Why? I'd examine the GDP, gross domestic product growth rate, trade balance, employment statistics, how many are employed, how many are unemployed, measurable indicators that offer a broad overview of economic health. This kind of research methodology seeks to generalize truth, what we often call hard data. So in this case, if this is the kind of truth that I want, this kind of truth can better guide our policy makers. But if I want to ask, but if I want to understand, not determine, but understand, how Filipino soldiers cope with isolation and psychological strain while stationed aboard an aging Navy ship in the Spratly Islands, numbers alone cannot capture fear. Numbers alone cannot capture loneliness or moral conflict. Here, qualitative research becomes indispensable. So if the question is, what are the experiences of soldiers stationed on board a Navy ship, stationed there for 6 months? that kind of question would require a qualitative answer. So most likely, a phenomenological study would help me assess the lived experiences of these individuals. Alternatively, I might employ another kind of qualitative method called narrative inquiry to understand how these soldiers construct personal meaning in the context of conflict and national service. Take another example, another social issue, the rise of the LGBTQ. I think they added some letters. LGBTQ movement in the Philippines. While statistics can tell us about demographic changes or patterns in discrimination, statistics cannot tell us how individuals experience identity, pride, and marginalization, even alienation. This is where qualitative research excels. It allows us to listen to voices, weak voices, document stories, and analyze experiences that numbers alone cannot capture. There's even a light-hearted way, a sort of joke, to compare the two approaches. When asked about a nuclear bomb, the quantitative researcher inquires, quantitative, what components are needed? How powerful is the explosion? Under what conditions will it detonate? Everything is measurable because that is the nature of quantitative research. Anything that is beyond measure is not true knowledge. Okay. However, for the qualitative researcher, on the other hand, asks, why is this action necessary? What are the lived experiences of those affected or who will be affected? What cultural and political context must we consider? Both are correct, but both are seeking different kinds of truth. This is not a question of superiority between qualitative and quantitative methods. It is a question of appropriateness, of matching the methods to the research question. For example, if you want to find the area of a triangle, we use the formula 1/2 base times height because that is the proven formula, not the formula for the area of a square. Similarly, in research, you choose the method that best fits the question you are trying to answer. Both qualitative and quantitative approaches are valid. They seek different kinds of truth, and they are most powerful when they are used in dialogue with one another. So let us return to the core concern. How can we explore people's perspectives on China's military expansion in Spratly Islands? So let us translate the theme into something concrete, something that we read every day in our newspapers. How can we explore people's perspectives on China's military expansion in Spratly Islands? To understand the lived experiences of others, particularly those who are directly impacted by national and international events, qualitative research fosters empathy. This is especially important in society like the Philippines, which is diverse in terms of culture, history, and social dynamics. The more we know about each other's struggle and fears, the better we can connect as society and work together towards common solutions. So we go back now to the central research question related to the Chinese aggressive expansion in the Spratly group of islands. Can I do a quantitative study? Of course, we can. You can. Okay? But you have to tailor-made the question to suit the quantitative approach. A possible correlational study related to exploring people's perspectives on China's military expansion in Spratly Island would most likely be, is there a significant correlation between the level of perceived military threat and the degree of support for increased defense spending or military alliance? That kind of question cannot be answered by qualitative research. If you are going to answer these questions qualitatively, choose any of the four methods, then the findings is null and void. Why? Because there is no appropriateness of the method and the question. So most likely, I will coin the title, "The Relationship Between Perceived Military Threat and Public Support for Defense Initiatives in Coastal Philippine Communities." Why? Because this is the kind of truth that I want to seek. Because this is a quantitative approach, I am not going to explain further. You have your independent variable and your dependent variables. Your independent variable, extent of perception of threat from China. Your dependent variable, the one being affected, is support for Philippine government defense measures. Okay. This kind of study could explore whether individuals who perceive a higher threat from China's actions are more likely to support aggressive or defensive national policy. It can help understand how personal threat perception shapes political attitudes. However, there is another kind of truth that is qualitative in nature. And that truth would like to answer the question, how do individuals and communities perceive and make sense of China's military expansion in the Spratly Islands? How do individuals and communities perceive and make sense of China's military expansion in Spratly Islands? To address this question, we can use the following qualitative method. Qualitative methodology is more fluid, okay? Quantitative approach is very structured, okay? So, if I want to understand the lived experiences of people living in coastal communities near the contested area, most likely I am going to apply phenomenology. Okay? This approach is well suited for exploring the lived experiences of individuals stationed in or affected by contested zones. Phenomenology helps us understand the essence of these experiences. If I am going to do a phenomenology, I will ask general questions. So I am going to ask, for example, how can you describe a typical day station in Spratly Islands? How can you deal with a feeling of uncertainty or threat? I am going to do an exploratory type of questioning. I will probe deeper based on the participants' answer. Allow me to give some actual example. Can you describe a typical day station in Spratly Islands? Sir, Dr. Rio, every day we fear for our lives. My next question, based on the participants' answer, how it is like to live under the threat of invasion on a daily basis? How do you cope with life? Oh, I keep on praying for salvation. My next question, when you pray, what comes into your mind? Oh, I find peace. When you find peace after praying, how do you make sense of the problem confronting your community? I am going to ask exploratory questions based on the participants' answer, and I am expected to do that for at least 40 minutes so that I can generate emerging themes. I can also do a narrative inquiry. Narrative inquiry helps explore how people construct stories about their lives, values, national identity within the context of geopolitical issues. Very academic. In actual research, there are different approaches for narratives. My favorite approach is the thematic approach. So meaning, in phenomenology, I want to discover patterns of ideas called themes. In a narrative approach, I am going to connect the themes to their stories. The two are different, but not very different. The goal is to understand individuals' use of storytelling to interpret and give meaning to national issues and personal experiences. Can I do a qualitative case study? Yes, I can. But I have to change the research question. Okay. Because case study allows an in-depth exploration of a specific community or group. For example, a coastal village in Palawan province or Zambales province affected by fishing restrictions. This design emphasizes real-life context, multidimensional and local specificity. In phenomenology, my unit of analysis is the participant. In a narrative inquiry, my unit of analysis is the story of the individual. In a case study, the unit of analysis is a specific community. A specific community. Data collection methods
Go back.
Okay. Data collection methods for case study may include in-depth interviews with fishermen who have experienced actual harassment by Chinese Coast Guard. Then we have focus group discussion with the youth or with the residents. And another source of information, the archival materials. In a case study, a researcher is required to have multiple sources of information. We call that the triangulation process. This is where many of our faculty and students have difficulties. So my source of information number one would come from the interview. Interviewing fishermen who have actually experienced harassment. Next, focus group discussions involving the residents, some officials, and military personnel. The third, document analysis. For each sources, I am expected to generate themes. Okay? Oo. Ah, sorry. Okay. So why does this matter? At the heart of governance and leadership is the ability to make informed decisions that impact people's lives. In the Philippine context, where we are facing complex social, political, and economic challenges, understanding public sentiment and lived experiences through qualitative research provides leaders with valuable insights. This allows them to craft policies and strategies that are not just data-driven, but empathetic and responsive to the realities of the people. This is crucial to understand how different communities perceive these changes. Qualitative research allows us to capture diverse perspectives, from those living in conflict zones to marginalized groups, providing a comprehensive view of how events and decisions affect different segments of the populations. Qualitative research plays a critical role in informing security strategies, shaping diplomatic stances, and crafting public communications. Qualitative research may not produce instant returns. Qualitative research will not enable researchers to acquire multi-million fundings. There is little money in qualitative research. If you want huge fundings, specialize in research and development. But qualitative research delivers a different kind of richness, a human-centered understanding of complex realities. It helps us move beyond the question, what is shaping, to the deeper question, why does it matter and to whom? Let us therefore continue to ask difficult, often uncomfortable, but profound human questions. Let us explore perspectives, not just statistics, because behind every data point is a person. Behind numbers is a story of life. So that ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Universitas Merdeka Malang, kami berjanji membawa cahaya untuk negeri ini. kami pasti bisa. Bersama kita wujudkan cita-cita mulia.